This was the farm of the future until the rain stopped. 8 miles away, Charles Ramsey leaned on his hoe. His field never got the memo it was supposed to die, but a few months earlier, the future still believed it was invincible.
With these sensors, we can predict moisture to the inch. No guesswork. No luck.
Exactly. That's why we're betting big on you, Jordan. The old ways are dead.
The old ways built this county. What happens when your batteries die?
Don't worry, old man. We've got backups for our backups.
They'll learn. The hard way.
Let's not waste time. We're here to disrupt farming, not debate philosophy.
They laughed. 6 months later, their digital empire cracked under the sun. The only green for miles, Charles Ramsey's field. The question wasn't, what's your tech budget? It was, how is that old farmhand still standing? The glass doors of the Agritech Center hissed shut behind Charles Ramsey.
50 years I've listened to this dirt. Their satellites won't hear what it's whispering.
Back in the boardroom, Jordan scrolled through a drone feed, pointing at moisture maps.
See, Marcus, the soil tells us exactly when it's thirsty. Automation is the only way to scale.
Don't let some old-timer spook you. His way is manual labor. Ours is intellectual property.
But the old man's field is still green. I ran the numbers. It shouldn't be possible.
That evening, Charles stood at his kitchen sink, letting the water run over his hands. It wasn't a drink, it was a prayer. He walked out to his test plot, knelt, and pushed a single bean seed into the loam. No sensor, no screen, just trust. A mile away, Leo's tablet was lighting up with anomaly alerts. The moisture data from Ramsey's plot didn't add up. 2 different worlds, planting 2 different kinds of faith. Only one wouldn't break. The morning after the meeting, Charles was up before the sun, as every morning for 50 years. He knelt at his field's edge and scooped a handful of soil. It was drier than it should be.
The ground's holding its breath. I felt this once before, in '88.
At the well, he lowered the bucket and listened. The echo came back a little shorter inside. The weather radio crackled. A long-range drought advisory had just been issued. The voice was calm. Extended dry pattern expected. Water conservation urged immediately.
He switched it off. No amount of satellites would fix this. Only dirt and time.
He went back outside, stood in his rows, and looked up. The sky was clear, but he felt the weight coming. That night, every phone in the county flashed a red warning. The drought was no longer coming. It was here, in his field. Charles already knew. He'd been listening to this land since before they were born. 4 weeks without a drop. Jordan's fields should have been a lush grid. Instead, the corn was ghosting yellow. The hyper-green he'd promised investors was fading like the battery life on his tablets.
It's just heat stress. The root zone data is solid. The system's auto-adjusting.
Solid, Jordan. Your fields are burning up. I've got backers asking questions.
8 miles east, Charles Ramsey's field thumbed its nose at the sun. Thick, green, unreasonably alive. Jordan drove past and slowed. The green seemed to mock the sensors on his dash.
It's gotta be an underground spring. Luck doesn't keep corn green for a month.
Leo cross-referenced the soil surveys. No spring. His screen showed impossible moisture signatures.
This isn't natural. It's like the water moves where he wants it to.
But no one said it out loud. Not yet. They just cranked the irrigation higher and prayed the dashboard was right. The next afternoon, Jordan drove the long way home, slowing to a crawl beside Ramsey's fence line. The corn was an insult. Tall, deep green, rows so thick they blocked the sun. Not a single dry leaf.
Our sensors show 40% higher moisture retention than any other field in the county. The math shouldn't work.
I am sending the drone. If he's siphoning water, we'll catch it on thermal.
For 20 minutes, the drone circled. It returned with crystal clear footage of dirt, plants, and nothing illegal.
Nothing? That's impossible. Every farmer with a green field has a hose somewhere.
Unless the hose is the ground itself. His soil structure, it's like a sponge engineered over decades.
We need to see it up close tonight. I am not losing this farm to a ghost.
It was reckless. Desperation was shredding their rulebook one page at a time. At dusk, they packed flashlights and a soil meter, ready to trespass into the only field that hadn't bowed to the sun. The moonlight barely pierced the corn. Every step snapped a husk. Leo's soil meter flickered uselessly. Then, Leo's boot caught stone. Not a rock, a carved terrace edge, centuries old, buried in the loam.
Quiet. These are pre-industrial. They're funneling moisture down a capillary slope. No pump can do this.
Further in, the ground was spongy. Ridges of rotting vegetation formed a mulch bed that breathed.
He's built a rechargeable aquifer. It's not luck. It's design.
Jordan snapped photos, but the soil meter couldn't read the layer beneath. The data made no sense. Then the wind shifted. A shadow fell across the stalks. Charles stood at the row's end, not moving, just watching.
Go. Now. Don't run. Just walk.
They scrambled out, pants soaked with dew, hearts hammering. The old man never said a word, never moved. Back at the truck, the photos showed terraces. The readings showed nothing. But the field behind them, in the rearview mirror, was still green. The night photos sat on Leo's desk for 2 days. He couldn't shake the image of those terraces. He ran the soil samples from the field's edge. The organic content was off the charts, like a rainforest floor in August.
This isn't just good dirt. It's a carbon sink that's been built up over decades.
In the county archive, he found a soil survey from 1974. Ramsey's parcel sat above a lens of clay hardpan that forced groundwater sideways.
The terraces are directing the flow. It's a closed-loop system. No evaporation, no waste.
He showed Jordan the map, tracing a blue line where the water would run.
So the land is just better. That's random chance, not a method.
Jordan's right. He bought lucky dirt. Don't turn this into a lecture on hydrogeology.
Outside, Jordan's field was gasping. Dust storms carried off topsoil that had taken a century to form. The dashboard still promised a recovery, but the ground beneath it no longer believed a word. A retired soil science professor, watching the drought coverage, froze on an aerial shot. That green square was a shape he'd mapped 40 years ago. He dug out a dusty journal and a photo. Charles Ramsey, 28, standing beside the university's first lysimeter station. Ramsey's dissertation had solved clay pan moisture cycling 50 years before the tech bros thought they'd invented subsoil sensors. The local paper ran the story. The farmhand who knew more than their satellites. It went viral in 2 hours. Jordan's phone buzzed with the alert. He stared at the headline for 30 seconds before his coffee went cold.
We called him an old fool. He's published more than our entire advisory board.
This changes nothing. A degree doesn't grow corn.
But the damage was done. Every neighbor, every investor, every web comment now asked the same thing. If he's the expert, why isn't anyone else using his method? Charles himself read the article at his kitchen table, then folded the paper once and set it aside. He didn't call the reporter.
They'll come now, not because they believe me, because they're scared.
2 news vans camped on the road, cameras aimed at his door. Charles pulled the phone cord from the wall. A reporter sneaked to the back door and knocked hard. Mr. Ramsey, just 2 minutes.
The land knows more than I ever learned. Go home.
That night, Stage 4 restrictions went countywide. No outdoor watering, no hope for a second crop. By dawn, Jordan's fields were a dustpan. The last of his corn stood like brown skeletons.
This is a weather event, not a system failure. We pivot to drought-resistant patents and raise the next round.
And if the drought lasts, Ramsey's field has been green since June. We need his method, not a patent.
You want me to beg a man in overalls? Tech outruns soil every time.
200 acres of hyper-modern equipment sat silent, Batteries dead, sensors caked, nothing running but the wind.
They're still arguing. The Earth doesn't argue, it just dies.
The insurance letter arrived, certified, with one line underlined twice. Act of God, coverage denied.
4 years of premiums, and they stamp it. Act of God. That's what the whole system was built to protect against.
Before he could process the blow, a black SUV pulled up in a cloud of grit. Marcus stepped out already on a call.
The board voted. You are done, Jordan. I am pulling every dollar. Your field is a liability.
We can replant. The soil moisture algorithms will adjust.
Your algorithms are as dead as your corn. I am out.
Marcus didn't wait for a reply. The SUV pulled away, leaving Jordan alone in the dust of his own failure. He walked the rows one last time. Stalks snapped like old bones under his boots. Nothing was alive.
I lost everything, because I wouldn't listen to an old man with a hoe.
In the distance, a single green square defied the brown. Charles Ramsey's field didn't need insurance. It had something better. His truck found the roadhouse by muscle memory. He ordered whiskey without looking at the glass.
He knew. He saw the drought before the satellites, and I laughed at him.
He sat through the night, head down, the weight of his debt like a second glass he couldn't finish. When the first gray light hit the window, he dropped cash on the bar and walked out. No plan, just a direction. 20 minutes later, his boots hit the splintered porch of Charles Ramsey's farm. The green field behind the house was a silent verdict.
Ramsey, I need to know how you did it. I lost everything. Please.
The door opened. Charles stood in the frame, not surprised, not pleased, just a man who had been waiting.
You want to know? You work a year for it. No tablet, no shortcuts. You learn dirt first.
A year, no screens. Just dirt. I don't even know what dirt is.
His fists unclenched. He didn't say yes yet, but he didn't walk away either. That was the first seed.
All right, I'll do it. 1 year. But you teach me the method, not just chores.
Without a word, Charles led him around the barn to a pile of steaming compost that was taller than a man.
This is punishment. He's waiting for me to quit so he can close the door forever.
Charles leaned on the fence, sweat already beading on Jordan's face. He offered nothing. Not water, not encouragement.
The soil crumbled in his hand. It smelled like rain caught underground, something his fields never had.
Hold the shovel like you'd hold a calf. Tight enough to guide it, gentle enough not to break it.
By noon, Jordan's palms were raw. He wrapped them in a bandana and kept shoveling. The motion became a pulse.
Jordan, I brought the portable lab. We can analyze the capillary flow.
Charles blocked the path. Number. He learns with his hands, or he doesn't learn. Leo's truck disappeared down the lane. Sitting alone at the field's edge that evening, Jordan let the soil run through his fingers. For the first time, he wasn't counting data points. Weeks passed like that. Shovel, sweat, silence. Jordan's hands stopped blistering and started reading.
It's going to drop tonight. I can feel it in the mulch. It's airier than yesterday.
For a long moment, Charles said nothing. Then he gave a single nod. Not praise, permission. That night, the sky bruised purple. A low rumble rolled across the county, and the first fat drops hit the dust. Rain hammered the green corn, sinking into the terraces, feeding the hidden aquifer that no satellite could map. By dawn, every other farm stood in mud that held no memory of moisture. Only Ramsey's acres drank and swelled. His field alone produced a full harvest that season. Golden grain bent the stalks, while others still sifted dust.
We had every gauge and lost everything. He had dirt and a shovel and fed the county.
Charles didn't boast. He just stood at the field's edge, leaning on his hoe, and let the crop speak for him. The method was no longer a mystery. It was the only harvest in miles, and the proof that would change everything. The first pickup arrived at dawn, then another, then 5 more. By sunrise, 20 farmers stood at his gate, hats crushed in their hands, men and women who'd bet on the future and lost. Their fields were brown. His was still green. They had nothing left but the walk. A man in a seed cap called out, "Ramsey, we heard you got the answer. We don't got pride left. Just teach us."
Charles walked to the gate, looked not at the crowd, but at the dirt under their boots. It's not an answer, it's a way of seeing. If you are ready to unlearn everything those screens taught you, be here tomorrow at first light. Bring a shovel, not a phone.
He didn't open the gate. The crowd stood another minute, then slowly turned, boots scuffing the dry earth back to their trucks. Jordan stood behind Charles, the hoe in his own hands now. "They'll come back." Charles nodded once. "I know." By noon, word had spread to every broke farmer in 3 counties. The old man was teaching. Tomorrow, they'd be back. That evening, Charles and Jordan walked the field rows, marking places for benches, a chalkboard, a new kind of classroom. The school didn't have a name yet, but the gate would open at first light, and the first lesson would be unlearning. First, light found the gate open. Men and women filed in with shovels over their shoulders, their boots sinking into the one field that still breathed.
Is this it? I drove 6 hours from the city. I want to learn what a screen can't teach.
Forget everything your dashboards told you. Today, you learn to read dirt with your hands.
He drew the water's path through rooted earth, the capillary flow that made his field a reservoir no pump could match. He assigned each student a 10-foot strip. "This is your laboratory. No sensors, just touch, smell, and patience."
It's loamy, but there's a clay layer about 4 inches down. The moisture's sitting on it like a slow-release tablet.
She's never touched a sensor, but she already knows more than half the lab techs I've trained.
Jordan moved among them, correcting grips, showing how to slope a furrow. The student had become the assistant.
You'll come back tomorrow with blisters and questions. Both mean you are doing it right.
Mr. Ramsey, why did you hide your degrees? You could have been a professor.
Because a title on the wall doesn't make the corn care, Maya. I chose to listen, not lecture.
By the next planting season, the students' 10-foot strips had turned into a crazy quilt of impossible green. Maya's plot alone yielded 80 bushels per acre, twice what the county had seen before the drought. Jordan walked the rows without a gadget. His thumb was the only sensor he needed now.
I quit the firm. If I am building tools for this, they'll be built from observation, not theory.
Charles gave a slow, deliberate nod. The school officially had its 3rd teacher. Farmers who once mocked now dropped off baskets of bread and asked to join the next class. Jordan and Maya led the new arrivals to their plot. The cycle was repeating. Charles leaned on his hoe at the field's edge. The one that never bowed still had more to teach, and deep in the dirt, the answer Maya sought was still writing itself, deeper than any degree. The county fair rose on Jordan's old ground. This year, the Ramsey Method booth held center stage.
No chemicals, sir. Just mulch, gravity, and a century of patience. Taste that tomato.
Those mares' tails up there, pressure's dropping. In 2 days, the dirt will feel it before any app.
A reporter shoved a microphone forward. A year ago they laughed. Now you are the headline. Vindicated.
Vindication's not the point. The land spoke. They finally stopped arguing long enough to listen.
By noon, a red rosette hung on the banner. Best yield, best method, best hope for a dry county. News drones buzzed, but the real headline was the sign-up line, 27 new students. Shovels in hand, Charles walked to the fair's edge, where a child ran laughing through the green demo corn. He knelt, scooped up a handful of dry soil, and let it sift. Even now, he was auditing the earth. A child's laugh cut through the dusty air. The next question was already planted. The fair's dust had barely settled when a black SUV idled at the gate. Marcus Cole stepped out, a leather portfolio tucked under his arm.
Charles, let's skip the history. I've got a deal. We franchise the Ramsey Method. You'll be a brand. You'll never touch a shovel again unless the camera's rolling.
You tried to bury me a year ago, Marcus. Now you want to sell my dirt as a product.
The market's ready. Precision agriculture is a joke after this drought. Your name is the new gold rush. Name your price.
Jordan watched from the barn door, shovel in hand. He'd been that hungry once.
This isn't a product, Marcus. It's a relationship with the land. You can't package that in a subscription fee.
You are turning down millions? For what? A few dozen students?
For soil that will feed their grandchildren after I am gone. Take your contract and leave it in the mulch pile.
Marcus stood motionless, the paper crinkling in his grip. Then he nodded once and slid back into the SUV. The school sign creaked in the wind. No brand, no franchise, just the land, and those still willing to learn. Under the oak where it began, 12 graduates stood in caps made of burlap, the soil of the last harvest still under their nails.
You came here chasing a method. You leave carrying something older than science, a conversation with the ground.
Jordan crossed the grass, the same hands that once swiped a dashboard, now reaching for a handshake.
A year ago, I stood at his door with nothing but a hangover and a dead farm. I wanted a cheat code. He gave me a shovel. I hated him for it. But the soil taught me what no screen could. You don't own the land. You borrow it from your kids.
Jordan will lead the next class. He's earned the right to teach because he first learned to listen.
Maya pressed a single stalk of her best corn into Charles's palm. No words, just a nod. The graduates threw their caps into the air, the burlap catching in the oak's branches like earnest promises. Charles leaned on his hoe, the same way he had 1,000 mornings. But now, the rows were full of teachers. The sign still read Ramsey School of Sustainable Agriculture. But underneath, a new line was taking root in the minds of 12 graduates. That evening, when the last pickup had left and the gate was closed, Jordan found Charles on the porch with 2 chipped coffee mugs.
I thought I was smarter than the dirt. Truth is, I was scared of it. Scared it wouldn't obey my algorithms.
Soil doesn't obey, it cooperates. That's what your sensors never learned.
Jordan set down his mug, and his handshake found Charles's before the words did.
I am sorry for laughing, for the drone, for every word I said in that boardroom.
You already paid that debt with a year of shoveling. Don't carry with the dirt already buried.
Charles's grip was dry and steady, the same restraint he used on a hoe handle. They sat in the quiet, the field before them, now just a green memory under the rising moon. The lesson was over. The respect was permanent. The porch creaked as they stood. Tomorrow they'd teach together, the method already in their hands. A year melted into the soil. The school at Ramsey's farm had its 3rd class and a waiting list. Charles still walked the rows every morning, but the hoe rested more often against his shoulder. A small girl with pigtails broke from the tree line, barefoot, a seed packet clutched in her fist like a treasure.
You came early. The dirt's still waking up.
He knelt, and his hand closed over hers, guiding the seed into a furrow.
Now listen. The ground's about to talk.
A whisper of wind moved the stalks, and the child's eyes grew wide. Behind them, Jordan's voice carried from the classroom. Roots first, screens later. Charles straightened slowly. His smile creased like the land he'd loved. The field that once stood alone now stood surrounded by students. The lesson had taken root. The green square that once defied a drought now stretched wider than the old maps had ever drawn. At the gate, the school sign hung straight, its fresh coat of paint worn by hundreds of hands. Alumni gathered under the oak, their children darting between legs, their roots already deeper than any dashboard. Maya had opened a sister school. Leo's soil monitors, born of observation, were free and open source. Jordan taught a class called Listening First, his thumbs still dirty from the morning's planting. Charles stood at the field's edge, his shadow stretching across the green like a long, slow goodbye. He knelt, cupping a seedling that had broken through the soil overnight. The dirt still cool and damp, the only field left standing was just the beginning. The method was never the secret. It was patience, humility, and a willingness to listen. And somewhere in a furrow, a new seed was already answering.